She was left in the heart of the jungle, a little girl, tied to a wooden tree, her voice too weak to scream anymore. No one was supposed to find her. But then, through the thick silence, came soft footsteps, not of a human, but of a tiger cub. And what it led rescuers to left everyone speechless. The jungle never told its secrets easily. It swallowed screams and silenced footsteps beneath thick trees and ancient vines. In that green prison, where sunlight barely touched the forest floor, a soft whimper echoed, weak, broken, and almost lost among the sounds of chirping insects and distant growls. 8-year-old Mira sat tied to a tree with coarse rope biting into her wrists. Her eyes, swollen from crying, darted through the undergrowth, looking for anyone, anything. Her mouth was dry. She hadn't eaten in 2 days. The last memory she had was of being dragged into a van, then waking up alone, bound in the middle of nowhere. This wasn't a place a child stumbled into. This was a place people were left to disappear. Why would anyone do this to her? She didn't understand. She was just a schoolgirl from a nearby village, cheerful, polite, always home before dark. Her parents loved her. She had no enemies. But someone wanted her gone, and they chose the most merciless way possible. But the jungle had other plans. Somewhere nearby, rustling bushes stirred. Mira froze. Fear gripped her chest. She expected a snake, or maybe the man who tied her coming back. But instead, from the thicket emerged something strange. A pair of curious golden eyes blinking at her through the leaves. A tiger cub. Not much bigger than a dog. Its fur was bright orange, paws oversized, ears alert. Mira's first instinct was to scream, but she couldn't. Her voice was too dry. Instead, she simply stared as the cub took cautious steps toward her. The wild creature cocked its head, studying her like it didn't understand what it was seeing. A child, tied, helpless, crying. It sniffed the rope, then pawed at it. Mira didn't move, but inside something shifted. A flicker of hope. This animal wasn't afraid of her. In fact, it seemed concerned. The cub let out a short huffing sound and vanished into the forest. Mira thought it was over, that she was alone again. But she was wrong, because the cub hadn't left to run away. It had left to find something, or someone. And what came next would uncover a truth darker than any jungle night. Minutes passed like hours. Mira's body ached. Her head lolled forward as exhaustion threatened to pull her under again. The jungle had gone eerily quiet, as if even nature was holding its breath. Then came the sound of low, fast rustling. Not just one pair of paws this time, several. Mira weakly lifted her head. Through blurred eyes, she saw the tiger cub return, but it wasn't alone. Following close behind was a full-grown tigress, her massive body moving with silent grace, stripes blending with the trees. And behind her were 2 more cubs. The tigress stopped just feet away from Mira, and for a moment, the world paused. Mira's breath hitched. She was too weak to scream, too tired to run even if she could. But the tigress didn't snarl, didn't pounce. She studied the rope. Then, in a moment Mira would never forget, the tigress crouched low and gently placed her massive paw on the knot, sniffing and tugging, trying to loosen it. The cub mimicked her. It wasn't aggressive. It was deliberate, intelligent. Mira's heart thudded. These weren't wild attacks. This was help. And then a distant sound shattered the silence. Boots, voices, shouting. Men. The tigress growled low and disappeared into the underbrush, but not before brushing her head lightly against Mira's shoulder. It wasn't aggression. It was a message. You are not alone. Seconds later, 3 armed men emerged from the trees. Not police, not rescuers. These were the same men who had dragged her into the van, angry, frustrated. One kicked the ground. "She's still alive?" he barked. "We left her to be eaten. They said the body should disappear. The jungle was supposed to take care of it." Mira's stomach turned. They weren't just kidnappers. They were erasing her. But as they argued, something snapped behind them. A deep roar shook the forest. The tigress had returned. She burst from the thicket like a nightmare, knocking one man flat with a swipe of her paw. The others screamed, stamping over each other to flee. Mira watched through teary eyes as the jungle roared to life. Birds scattered, branches broke, and justice arrived, not on 2 legs, but 4 paws. The men vanished into the jungle, chased by something they thought they could never fear, a mother. And behind her, the tiger cub gently returned to Mira's side and lay down beside her, waiting, watching, not leaving.
The jungle settled again, but this time with a different kind of silence. Not the stillness of danger, but the hush that follows justice. Mira sat slumped against the tree, tears streaming silently down her face, not from fear, but from the overwhelming wave of something she hadn't felt in 2 days. Safety. The tiger cub curled beside her, its body warm against hers, eyes flicking between the shadows protectively. And then, a voice. Did you hear that? I swear something moved. It was faint at first, but it grew louder. Boots crunching leaves, radios crackling, and calls for a name Mira hadn't heard in days. "Mira! Mira, are you here?" A deep sob burst from her throat as she tried to respond, but only a broken whimper came out. Still, it was enough. Through the trees emerged 2 forest rangers and a man in a police uniform, Mira's uncle, Inspector Rahim. His eyes widened as he saw her tied to the tree, gaunt and pale but alive. He sprinted toward her, fell to his knees and fumbled to cut the rope. "Mira! Oh my God, Mira! Who did this to you?" She collapsed into his arms, unable to speak, but she didn't need to. Not yet. The ranger stood frozen. One pointed, trembling, "Sir, look!" Just feet away, the tiger cub stood tall, unafraid, watching the reunion like a silent guardian. The cub didn't growl, didn't run. It simply turned and disappeared into the undergrowth. But there was something else. Tracks. Massive paw prints, blood on the leaves, and 2 men's jackets torn and abandoned on the forest floor. Clear signs of a violent chase. No bodies, no captors, only the jungle's warning. Not all evil escapes. Back at the ranger post, as medics treated Mira for dehydration, the truth began to unfold. Surveillance footage from the village outskirts caught the men loading her into the van. Mira's weak but clear statement sealed it. She had been targeted as a message to her family. Her father had spoken out against a local land grab, and someone wanted to silence them. But the jungle refused. Wildlife officials reviewed the scene the next day. They found claw marks on the tree, loose rope shredded by paws and teeth. It confirmed what Mira had told them. And in the days that followed, villagers began reporting something strange. A tiger cub spotted near the village school, never attacking, just watching, waiting, as if checking in on someone. Weeks passed and Mira slowly recovered. Her cuts on her wrists faded, her appetite returned, and her laughter, once fragile, began to ring again through the walls of her home. But something had changed in her. She no longer feared the jungle. She honored it. The story of the tiger cub spread far and wide. News channels picked it up, calling it a miracle. Experts debated it. Some believed the tigress had mistaken Mira for a cub. Others believed it was pure instinct. But those who knew Mira, and Mira herself, didn't need science to explain it. It was something deeper, something spiritual. The jungle protected her when humanity had failed. A local wildlife photographer set up cameras deep in the forest, hoping to glimpse the tigress again. What he captured shocked everyone. A mother tigress sitting atop a hill at dusk, watching the village below. And beside her, the cub, now a little older, staring straight into the lens, unafraid. Officials declared the area a protected wildlife sanctuary, naming the tigress Shakti, meaning strength. And a mural was painted on the wall of Mira School, of a little girl holding hands with a tiger cub under a canopy of trees. Mira would later grow up to become a conservationist, dedicating her life to protecting animals who once protected her. She often told her story to children, not to frighten them, but to remind them that sometimes what we fear most holds the greatest kindness. The men who kidnapped her were never seen again. The jungle kept its secrets. And Mira never visited the tree where she was tied. She didn't need to. In her heart, she carried that moment when the ropes cut into her wrists and the world gave up on her. But a tiger cub didn't. Because sometimes, in a world full of cruelty, mercy doesn't come with a siren or a badge. Sometimes, it has paws.